Hey everyone, this is Professor Triplet. Just want to go over a couple things that some of you guys might be having trouble with. Let me just go to perspective view here. Okay, so I'm making basically a column, and some of you guys are taking these columns and like you're moving them around, and then when you go to export them, they're not in the spot that you want them when you export. Um, So sometimes you have these problems, sometimes you don't, but you're going to notice if you look in your channel box that there's this thing right here that says translate. And, wherever you move this thing, obviously these numbers will change. If I go up, the Y will change. But what we want to do is before we export, let's make sure we freeze our transformations. So I'm going to go ahead and go to modify freeze transformations. And you'll notice that when I do this, then this zeroes out. And what that means is that this is kind of like the new resting place for where this thing starts. Otherwise I could undo that. If I put it back in the middle, you can see it's at 000 here. But if we want the new place to be here, then we have to freeze those transformations. So that's I forgot again. Freeze transformation. There we go. I actually usually have a hotkey. Actually, it's right here. So it's usually in your poly modeling. So this deleting the history and freezing the transformation are pretty standard things that you're going to want to do before you export. Now, if you have a ton of stuff in your outliner, so you want to look in your outliner, make sure you open this up. If you have a ton of stuff in here, you want to just have the things that you want in your sketchfab to be selected, and then you want to do export selection. So if you're going ahead and saying export all, it's going to export everything that's in your scene that it can export. Like if it's an OBJ, it'll probably only be objects, but if it's an FBX, it can export like lights and animations and bones and all kinds of stuff. So let's just make sure that we are doing these two steps to freeze our transformations and to delete our history before we export. And then when we export, select the stuff that you want to export and then just say export selection. Just like an FYI, let me just show you one little thing here, a tip. I can make a sphere, I can make a cube, I can make a torus, and if I want to export, let's say I want all three of these, or I should say four of these. So the way I'm selecting is I click on one and then I hold shift and I click on the subsequent ones. You can see they're all selected in my outliner. Okay, so if I hit Control G, it groups them. And then once they're grouped, I can name this and say export. And then this can be something that every time I could be working in the scene, but I could say, okay, anything I want to export, I put into this folder. This is just like a folder system. So I can select the cone and middle mouse drag over this export, and the cone will pop up into here. So if I want the cone to come out, I can middle mouse drag out. So that's just a way that you can, export easily by just having everything in one folder. So that's called grouping. So when I select all those and I hit Control G, that's called grouping. So these are grouped now. You also can, you can put stuff into a layer system. So if you want to see it or not see it, you can do that. And you can reference these or template it. So template just is basically you can't select it, but it shows where it is. And then if you want a reference, you can actually see it, but you still can't select it. And then if you turn that off, then you can actually select these again. But if you want to select all of them, you just select this group and then export selection. And that's it. Okay, so that's just a little update. Probably maybe something I wasn't clear about in the videos. I apologize. But hopefully that helps you get to your next step. All right, thanks.